we're in a sort of full lockdown in London, and yeah, time's just getting a little bit blurry.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Uh, so before I start asking you a few questions, I would like to congratulate you for the release of your new album, April.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful album.
Oh, it was terrible, the trembling, back when the leaves were turning brown. But then we made it through the year, a little laugh, a little tear, a little no.
And I love it so much.
Thank
I've
you
been
so
listening
much.
to it since since the day of the release. Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
yeah. Changi is my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, I like that one too. That happened quite early.
Oh,
Wrote that one quite early in the whole process.
oh, I see. Okay, and this it's been like 4 years since the release of your last album, right? Can you describe about the latest album and what's the perception been like?
Well, this album was supposed to come out a couple of years ago, but because I went on maternity leave, so we moved it to this year. And then God, because well, obviously this year has been really strange, and I just feel so sort of grateful that the album came out this year and like gave me something to focus on, and I could share music. And like I know from personal experience that like people putting music or putting anything out, even a podcast during this period, has been a huge amount of pressure relief. So I'm actually like extremely happy that I was able to put something out during the pandemic.
Oh yes.
Like even the novelty of like, oh, a new album might lift someone's day just one day, and that in my experience can be quite helpful.
Yes, I see. You described in some of your interviews that this album is like a love letter to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Yes, and I noticed that the lyrical themes seems to have a deep sense of ambivalence with the country of your birth. Okay, and what makes this album different from your previous work?
I think my first album was about finding my place in England, and like tapping into what I felt Englishness was not available to me, because I felt I had it, but I felt that other people couldn't see it in me. And then gradually over the course of making albums, I've sort of like worked through that and found that beyond that Englishness, there was always a box that was my childhood in Hong Kong. So this album was about opening that box, and so I went back to Hong Kong to write it. And what happened there is like changed my life. So I went to write an album, and I ended up with a family. So to me, like now, Hong Kong is the place where I was born. It's the place where my daughter was born, and I'll always, it's always going to be a huge part of my destiny.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. And the musical term anti-folk has always been associated with your music. What does it mean, and how did it come about?
Well, in the late 90s, there was a scene in New York that was called anti-folk.
Okay.
And I think in the early noughties, when I was starting music, quite a few of those artists were touring, like Jeffrey Lewis and Diane Cluck.
Okay.
They were really great. I love Diane Cluck still. And because I think like my music's very lyric based, it got termed like British anti-folk. But unfortunately, there was already a group of people who were the British anti-folk people. So I always felt it was very unfair on them, because they were actually calling themselves that, and like people were applying that to a different scene who they had not, accredited. So I always felt like I'm much happier to be called like pop or singer-songwriter. It feels a bit more, it feels a bit more universal anyway, and a bit less kind of like temporary.
I see. Yes. Okay, and you were born in Hong Kong to an English father and a Chinese mother. Does it influence your music taste or maybe your artistic, your artistic direction?
Yeah, I think so. Like I love I started out my music taste listening to like alt rock from the US or Canada, you know, like Smashing Pumpkins, Weezer, REM, because that's what was really big in Hong Kong, you know, when I was growing up.
Yes.
Green Day, like that kind of stuff. Like technically, like if you break my songs down, they're very influenced. Like the early songs, very influenced by like acoustic Green Day or like acoustic Weezer. And like that sort of like obsession with making lyrics funny came from Weezer. But then also now that I'm older, I feel very influenced by canto pop or like even Buddhist music, you know. So it has it has a really big impact on my writing, but the impact changes, what it is changes. But also like because my dad grew up in London in the 60s, 70s, like we have a lot of records of like rock and roll and, you know, folk music from that era too. So I think I have like quite a good mishmash of pop influences.
Oh, yes. Okay, see. So, as an artist who's been working and performing in UK and Hong Kong, do you notice what's the difference between the British music scene and also the Hong Kong music scene? And what are the challenges that you face?
Well, in the past, before the pandemic, I can tell you what the differences are. I can't tell you what's happening now because I don't know. I would say that like people in Hong Kong who are musicians, they're not valued at all. You know, like the indie scene there is absolutely huge. There's about 400 indie bands, and yet the general culture just seems to ignore them. They don't have much funding. In the UK, people talk about the arts being underrepresented and undervalued, but I would say that in Hong Kong, it's people are working their asses off and they're not getting any rewards for it. I think maybe like the kind of the culture there is very much like become become a professional, you know, or like join the corporate world to be a real person. And if you're an artist, then surely that's something that you're only doing on the side, kind of thing. And I think that attitude has to change because Hong Kong has some amazing bands and like incredible artists.
Hmm. So, is there any Hong Kong bands that you would actually suggest to us?
Yeah, like GDJYB is my favorite new band. And then there's a band called Fan Hong A. I don't know how to say that in English. They don't even, it's called like Pink A. But if you Google Pink A, then you just get like a million sex shops. Like you just, you know, like it's really, like, I'll send it to Jen.
Yes. Are they singing in English or Cantonese?
GDJYB do a bit of both, and Fan Hong A is Cantonese.
Oh, I see. Okay. And speaking about other artists, you have previously collaborated with a lot of artists, including Fatboy Slim, Kate Bush, and if you could pick one artist to collaborate in the future, who would it be and why?
Okay, cool. I think I don't know. Like it's hard at the moment. I like if I could just any dream, I would guess I would like to write with like Raichi Sakamoto or something. I don't know, or like either that or just like someone who lives next to me. I don't know. Like I'm very open at the moment as to where I could go next. So maybe either someone who does like completely ambient music or someone who does like comedy music. I don't know. Good question.
Yeah, a very tricky question. Yes. And last but not least, before we end this interview, do you have any message for your fans in Malaysia? And do you have any plans maybe to come to Malaysia in the future?
Well, I don't know if I have plans to go to the supermarket at the moment. So, I really want to go to Malaysia. I guess like my message is the message that I would say to anyone right now is like, and I say it to myself, I have to say it to myself every day, stay strong, like it looks like this will never end. One day it will just be over. We'll be doing all the things we love. And, in the meantime, just really take care of yourself.
Oh, okay, great. And thank you so much for the time to chat with me. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. And I wish you all the best. And I look forward to your new music.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yes. Yeah. And stay safe and take care.
Yeah,
Emma.
you too. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.